classroom supplies, for example. Sarah McCammon reports as the fall of 2013 academic year begins.
At Roosevelt High School in Des Moines, Iowa, English teacher Haley Malis is deep in the back-to-school ritual of setting up her classroom. Today, she's scanning books into a digital library. Malis bought most of those books, and the bookcases, too. The old ones the school provides don't really fit in her room.
I needed to be able to have furniture that I could work around so that I could have access to the whiteboards.
The English department has a supply budget, $1,500 for 12 teachers, who all teach several classes. It doesn't go far. So Malis spends about $200 of her own money just getting her classroom ready each year. But that's just the beginning.
Over the course of the year, it's the little things that add up.
Things like paper and pens, anything a student might forget to bring or can't afford. Malis's colleague, school counselor Ryan Williamson, stocks school supplies in his office, and he's also bought students clothing and driven them to college visits on his own dime.
The hard part is figuring out which students need the help but are too proud to ask.
Nearly every teacher surveyed by the National School Supply and Equipment Association, 99.5%, said they use their own money for classroom needs. Last year, the average teacher shelled out close to $500. Dennis Van Rokel is president of the National Education Association.
I think teachers have always spent out of their own pocket, but I think it has really gone up as school supply budgets have decreased.
But the same economic forces that put pressure on schools and families also affect teachers. The survey found that while teacher spending is rising, it's still less than before the recession. Colleen Breiner-Schmidt is president of a teachers union in Thousand Oaks, California.
The last couple of years, when we've all taken pay cuts, it's been harder and harder to reach into our pockets.
But she says teachers still do what they can to make sure students are ready to learn, even if their own paychecks take a hit. I'm Sarah McCammon for Marketplace.
And glad to see we're early on the curve here at Marketplace, using all the new lingo before it gets into the Oxford Online Dictionary. There's news they're adding Bitcoin, and the camera phone pictures are your own face, the selfie. Now, I'm into this one, digital detox, turning off all the stuff from time to time, everything but the radio, of course. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
All right, well, this time we're not going to pull it down so fast. A little bit of redemption there. Okay. Coming up in just a little bit, I'll have news of the weird, the song of the day, what's on TV tonight, and a whole lot more. For right now, we're going to switch things over to the CBS World News Desk and find out what's going on in the exciting world of planet Earth. So stick around, my friends. First cup is just getting warmed up.
U.S. readies Syria military plan.
Late this week, over the weekend, appears to be the time.
50 years.
I have a dream.
After the March on Washington. Northern California's menacing wildfire.
Trees were just exploding.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. United Nations experts are back at work in a Damascus suburb, scene of last week's alleged chemical attack, and a top UN envoy says the evidence is clearer now. CBS's Holly Williams is along the Turkish-Syrian border.
We've been hearing from the United Nations envoy to Syria, Lakhdar Brahimi, who said that evidence suggests a chemical substance did kill hundreds of people last week, but he warned that any military response should be approved by the UN Security Council.
Britain says it is preparing a UN resolution condemning Syria's government for the attack. Vice President Biden is the top administration official to suggest a U.S. military response is imminent.
Those who use chemical weapons against defenseless men, women, and children should and must be held accountable.
White House correspondent Major Garrett has the latest on the proof that's being gathered.
We have learned that this declassified report, which could be released as early as tomorrow, will contain some signal intelligence, that is to say, phone calls or evidence about the preparations for the attack within the Syrian regime and other data collected about how it was carried out and how it was set in motion. That is the kind of evidence the administration wants to put before the American public and the world to underscore its case.
A pro-Assad group called the Syrian Electronic Army has claimed responsibility for yesterday's web attack on the New York Times site. Problems persist this morning. Later today, President Obama leads the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the historic March on Washington. We begin with CBS's Pam Coulter.
Today, the words are etched in memory and in stone.
I have a dream.
The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. at the Lincoln Memorial.
My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
His words captured the hopes of millions and made vivid the struggle for civil rights, fought by those like John Lewis, the youngest speaker at the march, now a Georgia congressman.
We want our freedom, and we want it now.
More than 250,000 people packed the National Mall to protest the discrimination, brutality, and economic inequality faced by African Americans. George Ravelling was a volunteer.
All you could see is a mass of humanity. You couldn't even see the grass.
He's got the whole world.
It was part revival, part rallying cry. MC A. Philip Randolph.
When we leave, it will be to carry on the civil rights revolution home with us to every nook and cranny of the land.
And it was a day that changed history, leading to passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act the following year. Pam Coulter, CBS News, Washington.
He's got the whole world in his hands.
I'm Peter Mayer at the White House.
I have a dream today.
When Martin Luther King spoke of dreams a half-century ago, seeing a black president was not among them.
50 years after the March on Washington and the I Have a Dream speech, obviously we've made enormous strides. I'm a testament to it.
As the nation recalls the words and sounds of 50 years ago, President Obama will stand in the historic shadows of two of his personal heroes, Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln. He'll outline civil rights and economic justice issues yet to be overcome.
In a just-released CBS News poll, 40% of blacks say there is a lot of racial discrimination today compared to 15% of whites. 62% of blacks say they felt discriminated against. 57% of Americans consider race relations generally good. 100 miles from the fire near Yosemite National Park, vacation spot Lake Tahoe is being choked by smoke. The blaze is causing pollution problems there and elsewhere. CBS's Steve Futterman has the latest on the battle.
Fire crews are making progress, but it is slow and at times frustrating.
There's no end in sight right now.
Fire spokeswoman Allison Hesterly, the fire remains 20% contained. That number has not risen in the past 24 hours.
This fire is going to take lots of continued effort.
As the fire moves eastward, it's now burned around 40,000 acres in remote sections of Yosemite National Park. The main tourist section of the park is not in danger, but a major road into Yosemite will be shut down today, which could cause delays for those planning to visit the park during the Labor Day weekend. Steve Futterman, CBS News, Tuolumne, California.
There's growing opposition to federal school lunch rules. Live to CBS's Heather Bosch.
What's on the menu?
It's not the chicken nuggets. It's not the popcorn chicken. It's not the corn dogs, the stuff that the kids really like.
And Deborah Apple with California's Laguna Beach District says students aren't eating the healthier meals required now under the federal lunch program. Kids are hungry. The district's losing money. Laguna Beach plans to add sandwiches and taste tests to try to lure kids back. But a handful of districts in the U.S. have pulled out of the school lunch program.
Overseas, a new wave of attacks has left at least 58 people dead in Iraq. Bombings hit markets and restaurants in Shiite neighborhoods in and around Baghdad. Now, the latest in our week-long series on drones. CBS News correspondent Barry Bagnano looks at how they're being used by law enforcement.
In this convention hall, a controller shows off a new sensor that can pinpoint unmanned aircraft where police want them. Nearby, Eddie Lynn pitches Turbo Ace, a drone he says the Los Angeles Police Department is considering buying.
You were able to get the air coverage at the time you need it.
Dozens of law enforcement agencies want to deploy drones, including for surveillance. The FBI has authorized their use at least 13 times and doesn't believe warrants are necessary. Former Director Robert Mueller admitted to Congress no privacy rules have been developed.
We are in the initial stages of doing that.
John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute warns
privacy may expire.
He has written model legislation to protect privacy.
If it's greatly encroached upon by the National Security Agency downloading all of our digital information, just imagine what a drone can do hovering over your house.
Drone proponent Timothy Reuter worries with too many restrictions, Big Brother will benefit.
It's going to end up just in the hands of government and big business, and regular citizens will be disempowered.
Barry Bagnetto, CBS News, Washington.
Television and radio captured Dr. King's Washington speech and the march a half-century ago. Marking the event, today's social media.
The march 50 years ago had huge crowds, emotion, and eloquence, but it didn't have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
We are launching the first ever march on Twitter.
Donna Bird, publisher of The Root, a website aimed at African Americans, planning a day of social network discussions about issues. #MarchOn.
And then we'll move on to the president's ceremony at the MLK Memorial, and we'll be live tweeting it.
Which these days is how everyone can feel they're there. Dan Raviv, CBS News, Washington.
Today, the annual tomato fight in Buñol, Spain. And for the first time, tourists had to pay to toss tomatoes. $13 to help pay for the town's festival. For residents, it's still free. The bash was inspired by a kids' food fight back in 1945. That's the World News Roundup. I'm Steve Kathan, CBS News.
These are the sounds of someone taking their eyes off the road. Texting while driving is more than distracting. It's dangerous. Do us all a favor. When you're on the road, stay off the phone. A message from CTIA, America's wireless companies, and the National Safety Council.
This September, our state lawmakers have the opportunity to make history.
Because for the first time in nearly 100 years, Missouri can stop spending and start growing.
By returning a budget surplus back to Missouri taxpayers.
And let Missouri families spend their money better than politicians.
Because we need to grow our economy, not the size of government.
Tell our state leaders 100 years is long enough.
Visit growmissouri.com to learn more.
Stop spending, stop growing.
So what's the big fucking deal? What the fuck are we doing out here? I asked you, what in the fuck are we doing here? Hell, I don't know.
That's what she said.
Welcome back to the 4077th MASH. Always wanted to do that. Welcome back to First Cup. It is Wednesday, August 28th, 2013. And still to come, we'll have a very special song of the day in a little bit. Also a tribute to Martin Luther King Jr. on a famous speech he made 50 years ago this very day. And let's see what else. What's on TV? And news of the weird coming up in just a few seconds. What do you say we do that right now? News of the weird. What did I do with the intro? Oh, here it is.
And that's going to oh, son of a bitch. Why is this happening?
It's time for News of the Weird. Brought to you by the New York Post at NewYorkPost.com. London man wakes up next to fox. A London man got quite a shock when he rolled over to cuddle with his girlfriend and found a fox instead. Leon Smith thought he felt his girlfriend nuzzle his neck. When he rolled over, he discovered his girlfriend had already left for work, and a fox had crawled in bed with him. The fox apparently got in through a cat door, was chased out by Smith. The couple has decided to rethink the cat door. There's another reason drug deals tend to go down in dark alleys. Frat brothers at Florida International University in Miami were suspended after officials spotted them illegally hawking prescription meds on Facebook. The frat was offering Adderall on their public page for $10 a pill, $15 for non-frat brothers. It also posted naked Cohen pics, which also helps sell the primary product. A Florida high school has barred cheerleaders from wearing too sexy game day uniforms to class. Parents were dumbfounded when Countryside High School in Clearwater announced that school-issued cheerleader uniforms didn't conform to in-class dress codes. Why can they wear them in front of thousands of people at a football field if they can't wear them on game day at school? Asked one dad. Maybe she was sauced. A woman was busted after allegedly entering the Dim Sum King restaurant in Seattle, going on a rampage, and shouting, "Go back to China." She allegedly overturned diners' plates, grabbed soy sauce